Okay, welcome back everyone. So this video is called He Rented the Show The Office and Then Killed His Family. So this is apparently a documentary, crime documentaries. You guys know we love these. It's been a while since I have, reacted to any of the, any video like this. But whatever. The Office, is that the... Yeah, I know about the show like The Office, even though I never watched. But whatever, let's watch. See what happened.
You would never expect anyone around you to be hiding the fact that they were planning on ending the lives of their entire family. You'd expect even less.
That's crazy, bro. And the live, bro. What the hell? What the? Whoa.
To find out that the last
Why
thing
would he
they
end his entire family? Whatever. But hey, you guys know, we have Hershey's, right there, to eat. We also have sunflower seeds, as always. But whatever. Let's go ahead and watch this.
Behind for you was a long-winded rant about the TV show The Office.
Oh, okay.
While people tend to kill for all sorts of reasons, deteriorating mental health is definitely one of the biggest factors that leads people down that path in the first place. This story is definitely no exception to that, but people tend to find it much more evil than what should have been necessary. And of course there's also this whole thing about The Office, so let's get started. This story starts with the Tawhid family, who immigrated to the US from Bangladesh when their kids were young. Given that they had relatives in Florida, they decided to give the country a go. Eventually, they came to settle in Allen, Texas. The family consisted of the father, Islam Tawhid, the mother, Iran Islam, the grandmother, Altafun Nessa, the oldest son named Tanvir, and lastly the twin brother and sister, Farhan and Farbin. All of their lives were seemingly fairly normal. The family was pretty active in their community, the kids did well in school, and there didn't even seem to be any dysfunction within the family. However, everything came to change when the younger son, Farhan, got into high school. Farhan had an account on Reddit where he went by the username Galpticos. While the majority of his posts were about early Fortnite, he was actually pretty active on the types of subs that ask you questions for you to respond to, like r/askreddit. In around 2017, when he was about 15 years old, he started writing about some of his problems, although he usually kept things a bit vague. However, it is possible to gain some insight as to how his life had been going. From his posts, it's pretty evident that both Farhan and his brother Tanvir's lives started to go downhill in high school. In one of his own posts, Farhan responded to the question, "If you could sit down with your 15-year-old self, what would you tell him or her?" with, "Next year is gonna suck, dude." This kind of implies that he was about 16 years old when things really began to unravel. In Farhan's later writings, he would say that this was indeed the case. He wrote, "For those who don't know, I've had depression since 9th grade, 2016. Not the damn I failed my test depression everyone says they have, more like a I only cut myself twice today, that's better than usual." He described that he first
Whoa! I didn't expect that, whoa.
engaged in this sort of activity on August 22nd, 2017, providing the exact date and everything. He said that he quickly became addicted to the feeling of relief that it gave him. As he moved on in high school, the frequency in which he would do it would go from once in a while, to once a week, to daily, to even multiple times a day.
Yo!
He would even do it at school, missing important classwork because he was in the bathroom doing that instead. It seems that Farhad used to get pretty good grades in school, straight A's in fact, but his mental state was beginning to make that difficult. In another Reddit post, he responded to the question, "People who used to be straight A students but later changed, what happened?" with, "Getting A's was super easy for me, but once I got into high school, I became depressed. I was able to ace quizzes and tests, but my grade in the class itself would be B's simply because I didn't turn in any of the assignments or labs or whatever." In another, he blamed his changing grades on himself alone. However, he began to assert that his family's high expectations were beginning to stress him out. When the question, "Reddit users, what's going on in your life that you need to talk about?" came up, he responded with, "I'm in high school and I have a really terrible work ethic. I normally go to bed at 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., if at all, only to get like 10 hours of sleep total from Monday to Friday because I just seem to not care about my work until the last minute. My family has high expectations, but don't really know that I have this problem. They're the only reason that I bother doing work at all. I just don't know where I can find the motivation to excel and hit my true potential instead of doing the bare minimum." When he came across the question, "What's been bothering you?" he further elaborated on what he said previously. He wrote, "Having no motivation to do work until 3 a.m. and pulling all-nighters almost every day in a family with high expectations." With the high expectations apparently came a lot of stress and pressure to succeed. He would come to speak of both on multiple occasions. For example, when asked what impossible thing he would like to experience, he replied with, "I would experience being a kid again. I miss being genuinely excited to wake up every day when everything was new. I want to relive being able to have free time and live stress-free." In another post, he further stated that he felt like he had to work extra hard just to keep up with his friends who didn't seem to have that much difficulty. He wrote, "My friend group is full of really smart people that are in like the top 5% of my grade with 1,700 plus students. They're all so smart and hardworking while I can't get basic things right and end up pulling all-nighters every week. I know that I'm not dumb, it's just that these all-nighters make me make so many simple mistakes. I don't know how to get the motivation to excel like my friends and don't really have a clue as to what I should do." However, one of Farhan's best friends would later say that this wasn't really accurate. He said that his parents didn't put that much pressure on him and that they were very accommodating with his mental illness. He said, "He didn't have the luck that most of us have to be happy. He just couldn't do it. He was my best friend, and I can confidently say that his parents did nothing wrong. His parents really did do the best they could." From Farhan's post, it was pretty evident that his brother, Tanvir, wasn't faring much better. He was apparently really phoning it in with his schooling. However, he was still very smart. When Farhan came across the question, "What is the single stupidest thing you saw a smart person do?" he replied with his brother in mind. He said, "Basically my brother's entire high school life. He's so smart but just doesn't give a crap about anything. I remember he had really low grades in his AP classes because of all of the zeros he got his homework grades, but managed to get hundreds on all his tests and quizzes. I remember it got to the point where he was failing AP calculus and decided to do only half of the final because he calculated that if he got at least 50 points he would pass. Sure enough, he did." Both Farhad and Tanvir were evidently suffering from depression, although they wouldn't come to detail how truly bad it was on Reddit, mainly only scratching the surface. At points, however, Farhan would detail how he felt. He said that, although his life was pretty good by his own admission, he still felt bad. When he was asked what his most depressing realization was, he said, "That even though I was lucky enough to be born with a good family, a good home, have good friends, live in one of the most privileged countries in the world, and have the ability to fix any problems I have, I'm too useless to fix any of them and am still unhappy." However, it wasn't too long before some pieces of his perfect life began to fall apart. He detailed that his 3 best friends dropped him, feeling that dealing with someone too depressed was too much work. At first, he was angry, but then he began to agree that he probably was a handful at the time. He wrote, "Everyone says you can talk to me and post those useless mental health links on their stories, but when you actually interact with someone who's depressed, you realize how impossible fixing them is. I've never benefited from telling someone about how depressed I was. It always ends with them having to leave me. The only people who really stick around are those obligated to. Just pretend you care and never directly offer to help. It'll only waste both of our time." That winter, he even came to realize that self no longer came with any positive feeling of relief. With that, he began to spiral much more than before. When asked why he didn't, let's say, act on his depression, he replied with, "The fact that everyone I know would feel partly guilty and will carry pain that they aren't responsible for the rest of their lives just because I was selfish." That would prove to be a very dark piece of foreshadowing. Still, Farhan did what he could to try to return to some...
That's why you would just kill them instead? So they wouldn't have to carry that pain or whatever?
Sort of semblance of a normal life.
Is that?
Selfish. That would prove to be a very dark piece of foreshadowing. Still, Farhan did what he could to try to return to some sort of semblance of a normal life. When the spring semester came around, he wanted to be cool. He started working out to lose weight and became less of an, as he called it, cringy awkward kid. With that, he did see the benefits. He wrote, "End of summer rolls around and in comes senior year, the best year of my life. I somehow managed to get a girlfriend who was far out of my league, become a programming god, and made a solid new friend group. Things got even better when I got into computer science at UT Austin, which was supposed to be a big deal. I never really cared about school, but it felt good having something others cared about. My life was starting to sound perfect, right?" Unfortunately, the answer is yes. My life was perfect. That was the issue. My life was perfect, but that didn't change the fact that I was depressed. I would still have the urges to harm myself or end up crying myself to sleep. I tried doubling my medication, which worked, but only temporarily. Every solution was always temporary. Farhan had opened up to his father about what was going on, and he was very accepting of how he was feeling. He put him into what Farhan later called a mental health camp, likely some sort of inpatient facility. He was formally diagnosed with severe depression and prescribed a medication called desvenlafaxine. He began to attend therapy as well. With that, he did feel like things were looking up. Eventually, both Farhan and Tanvir were ready to move on from high school. Farhan began to attend the University of Texas at Austin with a few friends. He was mainly interested in programming, mostly when it came to games. He had an account on GitHub where he posted what was to become a chess game, presumably for a programming class. He mentioned on Reddit that if he could learn anything, it would be every programming language. Farhan hoped that college would be a fresh start. He began putting in the effort, getting pretty good grades, and tried his best to act in a way that he felt was normal. However, he still felt he wasn't succeeding. More than anything, he couldn't take the schooling itself. He wrote, "For the life of me, I just can't comprehend how you people do it. You people are okay with spending hours upon hours listening to lectures, doing homework, and studying for at least 4 years so you can get a job and make some money." His pessimism further convinced him that his life after school would be very much the same, just with a job instead. As he lost hope, he thought, "It's not fair. I did everything right. Every little fucking thing right, and I'm still just as apathetic. Everyone's allowed to worry about their future, and I can't even think about what I'm going to do tomorrow without enduring an existential crisis. It's not fair how everyone can be so content while I can't even fathom being happy." Eventually, Farhan's roommates began to notice that something was up. One of them was a bit more caring while the other blamed Farhan, telling him he just needed more willpower. Farhan wondered if he might be right. Once the second semester came around, Farhan gave it another shot. He tried to get more invested in programming. He got his brother Tanvir on board with some of his projects. The two made a 3D graphics engine together and uploaded it to GitHub. Still though, he didn't feel a drive for school. When one of his roommates noticed he was seeming very different, he asked him to talk. Farhan opened up and told him everything he was thinking. One can only imagine what he told his roommate was considerably dark, because a few weeks later, he was kicked out of the dorm entirely. About a week after getting evicted from the dorm, he didn't see how he could continue with college. He just decided to drop out. Farhan's brother Tanvir had dropped out as well during his own freshman year in 2018. After dropping out, Farhan never really did anything again. By his own admission, he mainly just sat around watching TV shows with his older brother. The two really got into watching The Office together. He said he came to realize that Tanvir was likely even more worse off than he was. He said, "If you think my situation was fucked, his was much worse. That dude is a fucking genius, but is too depressed and socially anxious to do anything with it. He had to go through the same shit I did, except by himself." It wasn't too much later that Tanvir came to Farhan with a proposition. It was February 21st, 2021. That's when Tanvir said that, if the two of them couldn't fix their lives in a year, they would give up. In doing so, they would end everything. Not only themselves, but also the lives of their families as well. And Farhan agreed. However, the truth was, the two brothers couldn't even last that long. After a few weeks, Farhan began to change his mind about waiting a year. He wrote, "We eventually realized we were just biding our time. Waiting a year was way too long. Why not wait a month?" It was then that they began to make a plan. You may remember Farhan's old Reddit post, the one where he said, "Everyone I know would feel partly guilty and will carry pain that they are responsible for the rest of their lives just because I was selfish." Well, that thought never left his mind, and it became a big part of both his and Tanvir's decision moving forward. They decided that they wouldn't depart from this world and leave their family behind. They would be taking them with them. Their plan would be simple.
With them?
First, they
Bro,
needed some guns.
what?
Then Farhan would take one of them and shoot
Bro, did I hear that right?
depart from this world and leave their family behind. They would be taking them with them. Their plan would be simple. First, they needed some guns. Then Farhan would take one of them and shoot his sister and grandma at the same time that Tanvir shot both of their parents. They thought that this way it would all be over very quickly. Then they would make their exit from this world. They assumed that buying the guns would be the toughest part of the plan, or at least take a while, but they came to find out that this wasn't really the case. Both of them were legal adults, and neither of them had a criminal record. There wouldn't be much to stop them from making a simple purchase. Farhan took a jab at gun control when he explained it. He wrote, "I would say the only hard part of the plan was getting the guns, but that would be a lie. My fourth and final point, gun control in the US is a joke. All my brother had to do was go to the gun shop, say something about wanting a gun for home defense, sign some forms, and that was it. There was a question asking if he had any mental illnesses, but get this, he lied. He literally just said no. They didn't ask for any proof or if he was taking any medication.
Wow.
He was. Just a yes or no question. Literally anyone can get a gun if they haven't been officially diagnosed. Thanks for making the process so easy. With that, they had all they needed. It hadn't even been 2 months since they started making their plans back in February. It was now early April and they had everything in place. After all, their plan didn't really require anything beyond the guns. With that, they simply didn't see any reason to wait any longer. Before they would carry out their plans, Farhan decided to write a final letter on Google Docs. There he would explain everything that happened up to that point in a long, rambling fashion. That is where a lot of his personal thoughts and experiences in this video came from. When he was finished writing, he posted the link to the doc on his Instagram profile. The letter began with a headline that would, no doubt, catch the attention of anyone who clicked it. He wrote, "Hey everyone, I killed myself and my family. If I'm going to die, I might as well get some attention. I'm going to cover 4 very important issues I encountered throughout my life. Who knows, some good might come of it." He wrote all about his life up to this point. His high school experiences, his mental illness, his college, his dropping out, and his murderous plans. He also complained to people who claim that they have depression when, in reality, they just feel sad sometimes. He also said that mental illnesses should be treated with the same weight as physical ailments. He knew that, without a doubt, people would question as to why he and his brother killed their whole family. He wrote, "Allow me to explain. Anyone who knew me knew that I operate on pure logic. Every decision I make is based on a pro-cons list, including the one to kill my family." The first thing on his list was the meaning of life. He said that the meaning of life was happiness and following paths that could lead you there. He said that basically anything we do is to find happiness, at least down the line somewhere. So he said that he shouldn't live if he isn't happy. He said that he isn't selfish because he loves his family. He wrote his reason for killing them for all to see. He said, "I love my family. I genuinely do, and that's exactly why I decided to kill them. If I killed just myself, they would be miserable. They would spend the rest of their lives feeling guilt, despair, and a magnitude of other adjectives that mean sad. Even after they got over it, it would have been a permanent facet in their lives, i.e. someone I loved killed themselves and I couldn't do anything about it. Instead of having to deal with the aftermath of my suicide, I could just do them a favor and take them with me. None of us would ever have to feel sad ever again." And then Farhan decided to use up a very large portion of his final note to rant about The Office. The TV show, The Office. While speaking of having to live unhappy, he said, "Imagine waking up, being waterboarded for an hour, electrocuted for 20 minutes, forced to watch the first half of Season 9 of The Office, and finally put to sleep. Now imagine repeating that cycle daily until you died. In this scenario, I'm sure that every single one of you would prefer death, whether you want to admit it or not." Farhan really hated the last season of The Office. Speaking of watching TV with his brother, he went on a long rant about it. He listed The Office as one of the 4 major points he had to make. He wrote, "The first and most important show we watched was The Office. This leads me to my third major point.
Okay, so really The Office is not...
ended when
The Office is not really the problem. It's like... it's just, you know, his inner... You know what I'm saying? His inner, you know, thoughts and feelings that he already you know, had, and then the fact that the show, you know, triggered them, but whatever."
Michael left. Don't get me wrong, there were a lot of good episodes afterwards. Season 3.
If it's fine, if he already, I mean, if he was already right in there, you know, the Office, bro, it would have been whatever.
7 were my favorites, but eventually it went to shit. The whole point is that it's people in funny but plausible situations, but then they introduce Robert California, who convinces the owner of a multi-million-dollar company to make him the fucking CEO. Then this stupid British chick, whose name I can't even remember, takes Andy's fucking job and nobody backs him up. The show has them all bond and nobody backs him up. What the fuck is that? It's not realistic at all, and it spits in the face of the character development we've had.
Hey man, it just seems funny the way he's describing it, bro. Even though I never watched this show ever. I mean, whoever's gonna watch this video, bro, like, if you I'm sure you understand everything he's talking about, you know, the events. But hey, I'm sure it must be way funnier to you than it is to me. But whatever.
Out of every character on the show, he grew the most. He had anger management issues and was a goddamn sycophant, but grew into someone really caring and genuine. His family gets destroyed, and he's the one who cleans the mess up, but then randomly decides to go on this stupid boat trip for no reason. This is the character who traveled all the way to Florida for Erin, but he just leaves her to ride a boat without her? What the fuck? And to top it all off, he gets the worst ending of the group. Great. People say the finale makes up for it, which is a complete lie. Sure, it was cute, but it didn't justify the last few shitty seasons we had to deal with. Yeah, Michael's there, but only for 2 scenes. There's a lot more I want to say, but hey, life is short. After he finished writing his letter, he came to a realization. He should get rid of all of his money. He decided to do so on GoFundMe, but that only led to another rant. He said, "I would just like to say, what the fuck? The fundraisers are organized by most raised. Why the fuck is it organized in the most ineffective way of raising as much money as possible? How are you supposed to start your project if the top ones are the ones with the most money? That doesn't make any sense. Literally no sense. I literally scrolled for 20 minutes and the least amount raised I found was $35,000. This shit is pissing me off, man. It pissed me off to the point where I'm just gonna donate money to charity now. I know it's less effective, but I don't care. Fuck the people who program the filter on GoFundMe. I don't care how many lives you changed, you could have changed even more if you just made multiple filters." And then he finished the letter with this last line. "And now we're here. Well, I guess my family and I aren't, but you get the point." After posting his letter to Instagram, Farhad and Tanvir went off to complete their plan. One Saturday night, they accomplished what they set out to do, and it doesn't seem that their family had enough time to react and even put up a fight. It was around 1 a.m. on Monday night that the Allen Police Department were asked to perform a welfare check by a family friend. This friend said that they hadn't been able to contact anyone in the family for a while and told them that at least one person in the house that they knew of could be dangerous. When the police came out, they found all 6 of the family members dead from gunshot wounds.
Damn!
The police were baffled. They had never heard a peep out of anyone in the whole family before. This grisly scene had truly come out of nowhere. A family friend, Sean Hassan, told the media that everyone who knew the whole family was heartbroken. He said, "When I heard the news, I couldn't breathe for 20 to 30 minutes. How could it happen in a community like us? We're so close, and we visit each other and talk to each other. We have dinner and stuff."
Damn,
But
imagine,
inside the
bro.
house, his children were unhappy for some reason, and one thing led to another. The police were pointed towards Farhan's final Instagram message pretty quickly. With that, the motive in the crime and how it came to play out were very clear. While the document was taken off of Google Docs fairly quickly, it began to spread far before that. Sergeant John Felty of the Allen Police Department said that Farhan had likely left the note behind because he wanted to be heard. One of Farhan's friends, Faiza Rahman, said that she was having a rough time accepting the fact that he could have done something like this. She said, "I haven't mended the 2 versions of him in my head yet. You know, the one who I knew, who was so close to and would talk to for like hours upon end about everything, and like the one that did this. Like, this was supposed to be himself showing how much he loved them, and I know it doesn't make sense to us." The Wednesday after the family's bodies were found, over 100 people gathered in the nearby Celebration Park to honor them. Even some of the kids' former teachers showed up to pay their respects. The police were there too, as well as family friends. They held a moment of silence in their honor. A leader from the Bangladesh Association of North Texas said, "Our community is suffering. I thank you all because, through this crisis, we found you as our extended family." A friend of Farhan's from high school and college explained how he was feeling, saying, "It's complicated. You don't expect to ever be mourning the perpetrator in something like this." She added that she always thought Farhan was selfless in the way he acted. She said that, even when he dropped out of college, he helped her through a breakup instead of telling her about his own problems. She said he was always there to help. She said that he only planned on leaving college for 1 year to find out what he wanted to do, but it appears that she was lied to. In the end, Farhan had no plans of doing anything but ending the lives of everyone around him.
Damn, bro.
Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. These days I have opened a merch store, that you can buy some merch. If you want, go ahead and follow me on social media.
What the hell, bro? Like, this, bro, like, this is crazy, bro. Like, that dude is a straight up, bro. That dude is a loser, bro. He's a straight up loser, bro. It's like, bro, just... He wasn't, bro, he wasn't right in there, bro, okay? He was a loser, bro, and he thought, like, bro, he really thought, like, murdering his family, like, bro, he really thought that this was, like, you know, doing them a favor, you know, because he loved them, bro. It's, like, just crazy, like, bro, this dude's a loser, you know, crazy, you know, narcissism, bro. It's, like, bro, it's just fucking crazy, bro, like, bro, it's, like, bro, he didn't want them to carry this pain, you know, for the rest of their lives, as if as if they wouldn't just, move on at some point, bro. Like, bro, that dude had no right to do what he did, man. It's like, bro, whatever. A loser. That's all I have to say about this, bro. This is crazy, man, but whatever.